Okay, this comment was left on my Bashar video, and I did respond via text, and I said that, no, I'm not enlightened, and neither are you, and neither is Bashar or anybody else for that matter, and enlightenment is a scam. But I want to get into it with a little more depth and nuance. So to talk about enlightenment, I would say we would have to ask 3 questions. First of all, what is enlightenment? Second of all, is it possible? Third of all, is it desirable? To answer the first question, we would have to look at all the Eastern traditions where the concept of enlightenment comes from. We would have to look at all the so-called Hindu traditions, the Buddhist traditions, the Taoist and Jain traditions, and we would see that they have differing ideas of what enlightenment is. But let's just say, for the sake of argument and brevity, that enlightenment is something like transcending one's ego, becoming totally selfless, and being in this state more or less permanently. Is this possible? Maybe. I'm willing to entertain the possibility, but I myself have never seen any evidence of it. The closest that I've seen to an enlightened being is probably the Dalai Lama, who I worked with and worked under for several years while I lived in India, and met him several times. And he, by the way, has never claimed to be enlightened. And I would argue that it seems to me that making an enlightenment claim is itself coming from a place of ego, is it not? Which is to say, anybody who makes the claim of being enlightened is probably not enlightened. In any case, this brings us to the third question, which I think is the most interesting. Is enlightenment desirable? This person has confided that they are a teenager, and when I was a young person, in fact well into my 20s, I believed that enlightenment was indeed the most desirable state. It was the be-all, end-all, and then as I got older, I learned something very important, which is that there is no be-all and end-all to spirituality or anything. You will think you have found the perfect guru or the spiritual path that is your forever spiritual path. That will change. You will think you have found the perfect partner. That will change. You will think you will have found the perfect career at some point. That will change. The perfect place to live. That will change. And so on. There's nothing, no constant in life except for change. Furthermore, there are plenty of philosophical and spiritual pundits who have argued that ego is not something to be gotten rid of. That if there is such a thing called enlightenment, it is not ego minus, it is ego plus. You need to be able to strengthen your ego and retain it so that you can be a charismatic speaker, for example, and reach lots of people. But you also need to be able to get out of the way of the ego when it's posing problems. There's a lot more to be said about enlightenment, but for now I want to say what I've said before, which is that enlightenment is a scam. Anybody who makes this claim, I believe you should avoid them at all costs because they are trying to most likely get something from you, your unquestioning loyalty or your soul or your money or something. And furthermore, they are placing themselves above you and everybody else and above accountability, such that anything that they do or say, no matter how abusive or wrong, could be construed as enlightened behavior. And this behavior should not be questioned according to the person making this claim, and it cannot be falsified. It must be taken on faith, and any guru worth their salt should be trying to encourage you not to take anything on faith.